So we missed last week, Lewis.
Yeah, we did. Good job on that one.
Well, I mean, it was on your end, but you got sick, so it's not really something you could control. So it's not like the biggest deal, but you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think there's anything else to really. I think it's best if we just jump right into things because we have to couple double episodes for pretty much everything. So yeah, we should probably just jump right into covering shows. So we always cover Kabaneri first. So what do you think of the last? We should combine both the episodes before we start. Actually, I should say, because last time we did separate, like we covered each episode separately. But I think for all the shows to save time, we should just cover them all at once, even though there's still going to be more to say regardless because there's two of them. But it'll cut down on time significantly regardless. But anyways, Kabaneri. What do you think of the last 2 weeks of Kabaneri, Lewis?
Stupid. Like, how should I put this? They are really just making out Biwa to just be a be-all, end-all bad guy. Like, they're not giving him any redeemable factors. Like, you're not kind of, like, making him go, oh, well, he's doing this because he's a decent human being. He's kind of fucked up in the past, No, he's just controlling all these people because he's a dick, really. He's also, with Biba, his entire association is with Mume is essentially making her pointless into the fact that like she's now literally being a controlled doll by Biba, which makes her character completely ruined. Well, near close to ruined at this point, really, since she was started off as this real strong character that's just can fight the Kabaneri without breaking a sweat, and now she's just she's just a puppet to this dude here. So not a good place for her to be in. Also, I feel like I don't know. I just feel like a lot of the characters have that kind of useless aura to them. like even things when they were going right, they still didn't feel like, well, I guess that was obviously what the show was going for, but they just didn't feel all that powerful. Like, they didn't have that kind of hero instinct to them. Powerful is not the right word I was going for there. More like heroic aura to them, which is kind of hard to explain, but so I'll just move on. But I feel like the death of Takumi was a little, I don't know, just like they drew this a lot within Kabaneri, where it's just like they try and pull emotional weight and just emotion from the audience, but just kind of fall flat on their face all the time because, well, they just don't give a shit about the characters, really. It's just like I just saw Takumi as this comedic relief character, that sort of like, hey, here I am with a witty remark sort of thing. And when he died, I was just kind of like, oh, whatever. Other than that, like, hey, I am interested in to see how Ikuma comes back from that big old drop into the river now. But the 2 episodes of Kabaneri have been just stupid, really.
That's a nice summation. They've just been stupid. I feel similarly though. I don't think I said it last time we recorded something because I think it was last week's episode that made me feel that way. But as I was watching like all of the events unfold in whatever fucking town it was that we knew for like 5 seconds before Biba fucked it up, when shit's going down at the end with like the chick turning into the Black Colony and everything's getting fucked up and the Kabaneri getting released in the town and everyone's getting murdered, and that was the moment where I was just like, I don't care anymore. Like, I just completely checked out of the show. Like, at this point, like, I don't think it can really do anything to bring me back. Like, I'm just so disconnected from everything that's happening at this point that like there's no salvaging it, which I mean is fair enough. There's like 2 episodes left, so if it hasn't gotten me by this point, it probably wasn't going to. But it was just so stupid. Like, I just didn't care about anything. Like, things happen in Kabaneri, but there's no weight to any of it. It's just like things happen, and you should care because the things are happening rather than anything behind them. And so it's just like, it's like a fucking picture book almost. Like, you're just like flipping through the book, and it's like, well, sure, pictures are pretty, but what the fuck ever. So, and that was just last week's episode. This week was probably an improvement, but like I said, I was fucking checked out, so it didn't do anything for me. And it didn't help that, like, Mume was fucking worthless. Like, can I just reiterate that last week's, not this week, but last week's episode ended with some of the crew, like, you know, guns trained on Mume saying that, like, they had to keep an eye on her because Beavis said so. And then literally the next episode, he, like, promises her, he's like, oh, I see how much you care about the crew. I promise I won't harm them. And she fucking believes him! Like, how fucking retarded do you have to be to fall for this shit, like, 3 times? Yeah. Like, this is probably the 3rd time, I believe, he's outright lied to her. And she was pretty affected the last couple times it happened. And she still fucking believed him in a second. And it's the dumbest shit. Like, even before the mind control bug, like, Mume's fucking done. Like, fuck her character. Like, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like, it's so stupid. Like, we mentioned it before, but if they wanted to make this believable and, like, make it actually work to the fact that, like, she was so determined to believe him, like, give more to their past. Give more to, like, why Mume is so attached to him and why she, like, follows him to the ends of the earth, other than, like, a fucking 5-second flashback where he throws a sword at her and tells her to defend herself, you know?
Yeah.
Or at the very least, make Biba more, like, charmingly manipulative. It feels like they're trying to go for that angle when I was rewatching some things, and they're just failing at it, because all these people follow him, like, blindly. They have this blind faith in him, almost like he's supposed to have, like, this charming seduction kind of thing that, like, keeps people, like, you know, following him because, you know, they just love him so much, like, he's so endearing to them. But they don't do it well enough to, like, show on, like, literally anyone other than people who've been with him for fucking years. So Mume just suddenly coming back and being like, yes, I believe everything he does. It's like, it's just stupid. And I was thinking about this, and it's become more obvious in the more recent episodes. We've been calling attention to it, but I thought about the show as a whole in regards to it, and came to, how do I put this, a surprising opinion, I guess, that I wasn't really even considering before, that I felt like I should have been considering, which is like, how much better do you think Kabaneri would be or would have been if Mume just straight up didn't exist in this show?
Wow. Like, I feel like there's always, like, a little bit of I wouldn't say angst towards Mume within me, so I always had, like, that sort of disdain for her with me, because, like, she wasn't, other than, like, say, I don't know, training Ikuma, she hasn't really had that much of a beneficial impact on the main, let's say, good cast of Kabaneri. Like, a lot of the things she has done, disregarding stuff like, you know, killing Kabane, that could have been easily replaced with, say, another member of the cast, you know, that could have helped them develop. But it's kind of hard, because, like, I wanted Kabaneri to solely be about, you know, this is humanity's struggle to survive. This is humanity versus a foreign entity. Watch them survive. That's kind of why I wanted it to be. But since the Kabane ended up being, you know, just essentially cannon fodder by now, they look so weak that it's kind of, they had to turn it into this sort of humanity versus bad side of humanity. I feel like Mume was sort of that catalyst that made the Kabane look weak, which in turn brought about this, you know, humanity versus bad side of humanity situation going on. So I I feel like Mume is a definite blight on the show, but um, it, I feel like she was sort of a necessary character within situations. She had that sort of innocence, uh, when it became to fatalities and stuff like that. Went on the train. Um, she needed adjusting. She definitely needs adjusting. Like, not. She doesn't need to trust Biba so much. She probably could show a little bit more tact every now and then. Um, and maybe here and there show a little bit more empathy, make her more of a human. I don't know. Uh, but other than that, with Mume in her current state right now, with all those things not in her, I would say that like she definitely is not showing any benefits towards the show really at this state in time when she is literally a puppet.
Yeah, I mean, well, you could rewrite, the faults out of almost any character. What I sort of mean is that I was thinking about it, and almost a good way to summarize Kabaneri in a way is I was thinking about Mume's involvement in the story, and I thought about it if like all the stuff that we've seen so far, like just with all the stuff involving Mume just gone, or in all of her scenes gone, like just her not existing in the show at all. And the amount of stuff that I realized still works without her being in the show is staggering. Like, other than the fact that, like, the one major plot thing she has done, other than, like you've mentioned, killing some Kabane, in situations where, maybe having the extra person would help, uh, is she let the fucking, idiots in last week. She opened the gate. Like, that's the one significant plot thing she has done this entire show. Otherwise, every other scene involving her could just either be completely omitted, or some other character could have done it instead. And, like, all the shit about Mume could just be gone. Like, Ikuma's character could work without her at all. Because they tried to bring up this week that, like, the reason he has this bond with her, and I was thinking about it actually before they mentioned the episode because I remembered seeing it in the opening, is that Mume reminds him of his sister, which, again, kind of fails because we've seen, like, a grand total of, like, 5 seconds of that background, so we have, like, no real idea about them at all. But, they could have made that whole, like, dead sister thing work without Mume, and all the, like, there's so much shit in the show that works. Like, Biba works without Mume, without her just being this mind-controlled puppet. Like, there's so much shit in the show that would work if Mume, like, was just gone. And it says a lot about this show. Like, it feels like these characters are just doing things. I feel like I've mentioned this last time we recorded, but none of these characters feel like actual people. They're just, like, doing the things that the script tells them to do without any actual weight behind them. And as a result, like, all these big impactful scenes that should have impact don't, because they're just doing stuff. And there's no weight behind it. Like, any show has characters doing things, but they feel like real people with real motivations and real desires to, like, do these things. And you don't really get that in Kabaneri. It's why I mentioned my favorite episode was the one where they were dicking around in town, because they started to feel like real people with, like, actual, like, thoughts and, like, likes and stuff until Biba showed up. So it's like, it's just going through the motions at this point, really. Like, maybe shit'll change, like, at the end. Like, I saw a post somewhere, someone was like, I can't wait for the show to end with Biba, black clouding himself, and then he'll fuse with not only all the Kabane, but the train itself, and then they have to fight this giant monstrosity. And I was like, you know what? If he fucking became a black cloud and fused with his own train, I'd be cool with that. That'd actually be pretty fucking great. But, what are the odds of that actually happening? So, Kabanery's just, it's total schlock at this point, and it's not even good schlock at this point.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned it before, we haven't had the fondest of thoughts of Kabaneri since, like, even the first couple episodes, but at the very least, it was, like, okay. Like, it was entertaining. Like, I wanted to watch it each week. It's at the point where I don't even really care to watch it anymore. Like, if we weren't covering it, I wouldn't be watching it. Like, I just don't care. Like, it's just so mindless, and I'd rather be watching other shows. that it's just like it's whatever. Like it's that I just get annoyed when people say like they like, yeah, the writing's not great, but it's like schlocky and fun, and it's like, yeah, but it's bad schlock. Like it's not even good. It's just stupid. Like good schlock is still like, you know, characters doing things. Like you can still feel like they're actual people. It's just there's not like a massive amount of depth to it. This is like no depth and no characters. It's just like paper cutouts doing stuff. It's a fucking puppet show. It's just I don't care. I'm saying the same things over and over again, but yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, no, you hit nail on the head real good there. Like, it's just like it's not boring. I'm not bored while watching the majority of it. I will say that much. But it's not like enticing. It's not entertaining. It's not like
It's not engaging.
it's not engaging. Yeah. It's just it's just material I'm consuming. It's not I don't feel anything while watching it. Like sometimes I laugh at the sheer stupidity of some actions. Like I remember the last episode where Takumi died. Ikuma's cry out in like anguish was hilarious. I'm not like being edgy here or something, like laughing at a character that just lost his best friend. His like cry out in like sorrow was so overboard and over the top that I was just like, Jesus Christ, man! I know your best friend just died in front of you, but could you tone it down a notch, like? But he just it was other than that, like it's just when they were making that like heroics revolution against the Kabaneri, the mean Kabaneri, like there was nothing there. I was just kind of like, well, this is how they're going to go about this now, because the characters are just empty shells walking about a train trying to get some, I don't know, happiness into their non-existent lives, really.
Yeah, it's just a thing. Kabanere's just a thing that exists at this point.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't fill me with, like, the level of active hatred that something like Oreimo or Mahoka does, but it's just like, it exists, and I don't give a shit. It's just whatever.
Yeah.
But, is that everything you wanted to cover about Kabaneri?
Yep.
Yep. We didn't even cover the stupidity of the fucking laser beams that got fired last week, but I feel like that spoke for itself really when that happened. But so that'll be it for Kabaneri, and that means I remember the shows we cover the order in. I totally remember. The next one we cover is Hero Academia. So what did you think of the last 2 episodes of Hero Academia, Lewis?
There was when you first said that, the first thing that came to mind was like this little thing where they, I guess it was just kind of like I've already forgotten his name. Deku. Boom. There we go. Like I really liked that moment where what's the dude with the hands name? I think that was mentioned.
You mean the little perverted guy with like the purple glove head?
No, like the dude literal hands all over his body and shit, like the villain.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, I don't know. Voiced by Koki Uchiyama.
There you go.
There you go. I'm gonna call him Koki just for shorts, and you know, I really like that like scene where like it's Deku almost sees what is gonna happen, where like the frog girl just like dissipates underneath his hand, and there's like the red in the background, but then like All Might comes in, and it's just like, ah! I just really like that scene. That's the first thing that came to mind when I first said it, even though I hadn't said anything about my thoughts. My thoughts on the first 2 on these episodes are great. Like the show is really doing a 180 for me, really, because the characters are actually doing things. What I genuinely love about Academia is that it's not the same. Well, when I say it's not the same people doing the same thing, it's not like, the same three people saving the universe over and over again. Like, the entire class gets involved. These, like, what would appear to be useless characters and just, like, background people for another show are actual, characters with traits and personalities that are capable of actually defeating opponents and defeating villains and getting a job done and protecting what's good. Like the fact that like Bird Guy is able to actually squash two dudes, like that's awesome. The fact that like seemingly the two what was it? Electricity dude voiced by Ikuma.
Ikuma.
The girl's able to create things. Those three characters, the fact that they had that little exchange and they had that little chemistry going on between them, those little interactions between characters are just amazing to watch. And in contrast to Kabaneri, they actually make their side characters feel like human beings that actually have like this banter, while on the verge of death sometimes. They still have these interactions that are just so great to watch because they're funny. They feel like these are actual human beings with human traits that have distinct traits from one another as well, which makes them all better to watch. As far as the actual villains go, they do do a good job of actually making them feel intimidating. The manufactured villain, I forget the actual name they gave him, the big purple dude. Yeah, he feels like he's going to get worked out. Like I really love that entire thing where like Deku went in for that right smash on him, but then what would have been a triumphant scene was like, oh yes, my hand didn't actually break this time, was just kind of like completely nullified by the fact like, oh, I didn't actually make a dent on this guy. It was a good, nice little contrast to the scene to actually show off how powerful he was and actually do a nice little, I guess, development with Deku, kind of hand in hand there, and it was great. Other than that, a Naval Guy didn't actually do anything these past few episodes. Now that I say everything about the cast of characters, so I guess I gotta take back all my statements about that. But other than that, good, great 2 episodes. I am loving this arc, really.
Yeah, we haven't seen Naval Laser Guy at all. Like, we don't even know where he is. Like, I can't wait for this arc to, like, end. And then it turns out Naval Laser Guy's, like, in the middle of, like, a forest section, like, on his own, and no one even bothered to go after him. And he's just like, are we done? What happened?
He's probably still on the bus or something like that.
He fell asleep on the bus. He didn't actually enter the building. I wouldn't put it past him. Yeah, Hero Academia has been great. It's like, going into like the episodes before, like the last 2 even, I didn't expect to like some of the side characters as much as like they got attention in these couple. Like, I didn't expect to like Frog Girl at all, like just based off like the little bits we've seen of her. And then like she's getting all this attention in this, and it's like, she's actually pretty cool. Like, I like her, she's neat. And it's like you mentioned, like the fact that they're bothering to actually like cover the side characters. I know they don't have like the most amount of time, like, infinite time to cover everybody as much as possible, but we're getting like, tastes here and there, and they're taking turns with like who Deku seems to be with for the most part over the course of things. Like, you would think with it's not really a love interest, but like Urarara, or whatever we still don't know how to say her fucking name. You would think that she'd be around like all the time because she's like the main female that like Deku has an interest in, even if it's not necessarily romantic at this point. But she's still like, off on like a different side of the building doing her own thing. So we're like, Deku's getting a chance to hang out with different characters, and it feels like we're probably not going to get much further in the anime unless it's split core, but like I imagine like in the manga, at least further on, like each arc Deku probably hangs out with different people each time, and that's how you like really get to know each of them. it would make sense why I see a bunch of fan art on my Twitter of characters hanging out with Deku that they don't seem to really have a bond at this point. So it would make more sense that way. But yeah, it's been good, and I was kind of wondering what was going on with the fucking crow thing, anyways, because if you saw in the opening, like there's the scene where like the superheroes are like duking it out, and there's like the bit where like All Might's wrecking shit, and then like the bird dude shows up, and like they actually like exchange punches. Like it takes more than one punch from All Might to actually do anything about it. And it turns out that wasn't just to look neat. It turns out like the dude's actually fucking strong as shit. So that's probably actually how the fight's gonna go in the next episode. It was also kind of neat to see All Might actually not smile. Like for the longest time throughout the entire like show, whenever he's in his super form, like he's always got the smile with like the extreme shading on like his eyes and his mouth. And this time he showed up and he's like, he ain't smiling this time. Like he's pissed. He like how we figured out all this stuff, like we don't entirely know, but it's it was neat to see him like actually not in the smile for once. It showed a bit more like of a different emotion in a way.
Yeah, no, like there I don't know if that was not has to do with like, I don't know. There's obviously some sort of personal grudge between Koki, let's say, and All Might, which kind of like explains why he was all I guess accepting defeat with when he heard like, they're calling support, well, best to head home. But as soon as All Might showed up, it was like, well, never mind, we're doing this now. So that probably explains why he wasn't like smiling, because there could be like some sort of personal grudge there between them two. But yeah, no, like everything with the characters, when those side battles, I guess they were great. I'm interested to see what demeanor now All Might is going to have in the next episode, because he still said like, the "don't worry, I am here" thing, but I'm wondering if this will actually affect him in the next episode, and if it does, that'll be interesting to see, since it'll be in front of Deku and all the rest of the crowd and stuff like that. I'm also thinking, because wasn't it a thing there, like he's kind of at his limit now, and being at All Might would kind of like, I guess, strain him. So I wonder if he'll actually regress, I guess, to his like sort of non All Might form during the fight. I doubt that'll happen, but still, it'll be kind of interesting to see. But yeah, I am interested to see that next episode, because Deku seems to have been evolving to like, being actually able to do bunches and stuff like that, and the rest of the cast as well seem to also be evolving through actually getting personalities, which is great. So next episode we grid.
Yeah, I imagine it won't take long for All Might to go back to being all smiles. He's probably just like pissed right now because he was on his way, and he heard what happened somehow. Whether God, what was his name? Is it Sheeta, the one with the rocket legs?
Iida.
Sheeta. I was close.
Yeah.
Whether he heard it from him, or he like found a way to like get the footage or audio of whatever was happening, like who knows. He figured it out, and he knew something was up, so that's probably why he's like, he's not smiling for once. So he'll probably be back to smiling, because he's the symbol of peace. Like he's got to be the all happy, like taking care of business kind of guy. Maybe it'll change over the course of the fight, because it seems like you'll finally have an opponent that won't go down in one hit. But yeah, like you mentioned, it's also been they took the time to establish before that All Might is at his limit. So the fact that it's that he's here and doing this now, like there's a precedence for this. It's been established that All Might will like go past his limits because of, if he feels like he needs to get something done, and in the case of his students being in danger, obviously he's going to push himself past his limits. So something's probably going to happen in that regard. I don't know if it'll go as far as like showing his like underpowered form at the place, but maybe it'll happen later on. Like maybe it'll like permanently damage him, and like it'll be like really hard for him to maintain that form at all anymore after this point or something. It feels like something will probably happen in that regard, because they took the time to establish that he's at his limit. Maybe it'll be something as simple as he actually does transform into his weakened state at the place, but like maybe some of the other professors show up at that point and they manage to like not have the students see it or something. Even though I don't think the other professors know. Although I don't know, it's the question is I'm still confused about what people know and don't know. Whether they,
Yeah.
I don't know if like they don't know that he has the under like powered like normal form or just the like transferring of powers. I know the transferring of powers is super secret that only like the nurse, Deku, he, the principal know, but I don't know about like his underpowered form because it seems like the other teacher knew about it or whatever. So it's like I'm still kind of confused about that, but it definitely does feel like something's going to happen in that regard because of the fact that they showed his weakened state and such. Um I don't think there's much else to say about the episodes of Hero Academia. Was there anything else you wanted to mention?
No, like, yeah, we did a good job of covering it, really, I think, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they were good episodes. They're just pretty straightforward. It's like pretty easy to cover. Um as for something that usually takes longer to cover, next is ReZero. So, what did you think of the last 2 episodes of ReZero, Lewis?
Okay. Like, yeah, they were good. I feel like, how do I start this? Uh, yeah, it was good. Rem had everything to deal with Rem was done at a nice pace where like that sort of the I guess the sort of the way that her backstory was done very nicely in the sense that they did a good job on focus. I guess they weren't focusing in how do I word this? They weren't being too biased about showing off the bias towards Ram, I guess is the best way to put it. Like they didn't really while still making it a very central point of the backstory, they didn't exactly, for me anyways, zone in on, oh, Ram is so great. This is just good. Ram is beautiful. She's the best. Why are you born, Ram? Like, they still showed the interactions with Ram and Ram being a supportive sister, and Ram still doing her best with her own capabilities. And they were still being kind of subtle with like her interactions with her parents about like them still clearly favoring Ram and stuff like that. So when that entire thing was building up towards the actual attack on the town, and when Ram's horn got chopped off, that smile when she actually saw that was sinister. It was dark, and you would understand why that would eat away at Ram all this time, and why she felt so guilty about like taking pleasure in the fact that like finally she can be an equal with her own sister now. So that was really nice to see. Other than that, nothing. These 2 episodes were purely really developed, purely focused on Rem. Well, the sisters entirely. I guess the little interaction between Subaru and Rem after the battles with the dogs and stuff like that. That was great. Like, she still had that sort of I wouldn't necessarily well, yeah, she still had that inferiority complex with that was still apparent even in the eyes of even in front of Subaru. So when she sort of had that confrontation with a very accepting Subaru, it was still nice to see her just open up and just see a side of Rem which I see an emotional side of Rem which was pretty unknown to the audience before these last few episodes anyways. So yeah, that was a good interaction when they like conversed. And that shit's going down at Roswell. Like we've learned a lot that like there's a lot of things going down. He has to kill a dragon, which is very very mysterious, and he's obviously supplying Ram with some sort of magic intake that is probably keeping her alive due to what Ram said, with the entire "my body belongs to you" thing. Uh, what else? What else? What else? Yeah, Subaru's great. The battle with the be- I guess Mega Dog was cool because they had the OP play in the background. Uh, in that, great 2 episodes of ReZero.
Yeah, I would pretty much follow suit on that. Like, I appreciated that the backstory with Rem was like, it wasn't just like, oh, she was strong and then like she lost her powers and I have to make up for, the both of us now at this point, because it would have felt like if it had went for that angle, it would have been like Rem sort of would have just felt like the weight was put on her and it wouldn't like have entirely explained her actions unless she felt like this huge amount of responsibility. So the fact that they went like the extra mile of like having it be like not only did that happen, but like she felt happy for a moment that she wasn't
Yeah.
like the bottom rung anymore was like the the perfect way to like seal how like her character acts, as far as like putting all the weight on her shoulders, is like almost punishing herself for feeling that way, and like doing pushing herself past her limits and doing all these things the way she does. And Ram probably pretty easily picks up on this, which is why she's like, other than the fact that they're already close as sisters, why she's extra upset in that one episode where Rem's the one who ends up getting killed in her sleep.
Mm.
So it's one of those motivations that like it helps explain why characters do the things they do, and then add extra weight to them, but not in a way that like it comes too late. Like, you already get that there's a sense of like things going down, and you understand that there's reasons for them doing the way they do or doing what they do. It's just that you don't have like the fine details until later, where it's just like, oh, now it all makes sense. Not kind
Mm.
of like a 180 where it's like, oh, that completely changed my opinion on what this was going on. It's just like clarifying what has already been hinted at into a way that like makes it more cohesive and work in a way for the big finale, when Subaru tells her, that it's okay to rely on people, like, stop punishing yourself. Um but yeah, I mean, it was good. I mean, we got a lot of hints of like shit to come. Like, obviously you mentioned the thing with Rosal wanting to kill the dragon, and we know the story about how, what was it, a hero, a mage, and a dragon sealed the witch? Something like that. A dragon was
Yeah,
definitely
I
involved
forget.
in the sealing of the witch. So the dragon he's talking about could very well be the dragon that sealed the witch, which is like, what kind of implications are there? Um, I think even more implications, although it might just be like a coincidence thing, it may not be something that's actually explained, is the fact that Rosewalt showed up so quickly after Ram's horn
Mm.
got cut off. Like, he was in the village and saved them. And it was like, did he just happen to be passing by? Or something I actually considered is it the same village that we've been in the last few episodes? And it's just like humans inhabit it now. It would explain why Rosewalt was there, because his mansion is right nearby, and so like some shit was going down nearby and he went there, so it would
Mm.
explain that. But it's one of those things I'm not sure if it's gonna get explained or if it's just like, it's just a thing, it's not a huge deal,
Yeah.
figure it out on your own sort of stuff. um
I yeah, I chalk it up to just being a pure coincidence more than anything, really. I like he just arrived in the nick of time or
yeah
something like that.
it's not something that necessarily needs an explanation. It was just something that I was
Mm.
thinking about as it happened, because ReZero's had a lot of stuff that's been like explained after it's been like kind of like weird in certain situations. So it seemed like something that may have some more meaning to it. But like I said, it could just be a coincidence, or I kind of like my theory of it being the same village that they've been in, and so it's just like Roosevelt's territory essentially. Um
Yeah.
but what else was there? I like all the interactions that he's had with Beatrice in the last couple episodes, even though they've been a lot shorter.
Yeah.
Like the fact that she keeps mentioning that he's gonna die, and then he just like doesn't seem to really care that much. Or like, it's not that he doesn't care, it's just that he doesn't so much reaction to like, you're gonna die. And it's just like, well, been there, done that, so he doesn't have much of a reaction, and then she just kind of picks up on that, and it's just like, the fuck is wrong with you? It's like, it's kind of nice to see, characters pick up on that sort of thing. You
Mm.
know, like, she kind of like, obviously Beatrice can't figure out entirely what's going on. I mean, maybe she can. She's pretty strong, but she at least gets hints that like something weird is off with Subaru. I don't know if we'll ever see her again once we enter the new arc, but it's like there's just those little interactions where it's like even those kind of interactions humanize characters, you know? It shows that they're actually able to fucking think for themselves and like able to reason things out. It's like it's just kind of nice to see that sort of stuff. You pretty much already covered the other positives of the episodes, and honestly, a lot of the positives in these episodes have spoken for themselves for the most part. They don't really need like analyzing, really. So something I wanted to mention was that I saw a post about the upcoming, not the upcoming content of the episodes or anything, but like the upcoming, because I really like the OP and the ED, and I don't want them to change. But I saw a post for like what's coming up next, as far as like who's doing them, and my fears, well, not fears, but my like trepidations have been like, you know, put to the side pretty heavily. The current people, I don't remember what their name is. It's like Styx and Royd or something that are currently doing the ED are gonna do the next OP, and then
us.
So that could be really cool because the current ED is like kind of hauntingly beautiful, and like people have been saying like shit gets like darker in the third arc, which I'm still kind of wary about because every time people say shit like that, I get nervous. I mean, remember the last few shows we've had where people have been like, it gets dark, and it's like, oh god, and then the things that happened. So it's like, I mean, ReZero's been shown that it knows how to write, so I'm like cautiously optimistic, but at the same time, like I'm still cautious. But I could see them doing a really like hauntingly good like kind of OP to fit with that sort of tone, so that would work really well. And then all we know about the ED is, I don't remember the voice actress's name, but whoever does Amelia's voice is doing the ED, and the song title is just called something like "Stay Alive." So it's like that's pretty neat. Like I could see the OP and ED, the new OP and ED being pretty good. As much as I like the current OP and ED, because it almost seems like a thing. Like a lot of shows that I really like, or at least that I really like their opening and ending, in the second half, like almost shit the bed. Like the openings and the endings just suck. Like it happens a lot. And so this might be the first show where it's actually not the case. Although we still don't really know anything. We just know who's performing them and like what the title is. So we haven't really heard anything yet. There might be teasers for them out by now, because I imagine we'll be on the next arc, you know, when does the fuck next ReZero episode come out? 2 days? I imagine the new OP and ED will play then.
Yeah.
So we'll hear it then. Although actually sometimes it takes them a while to get those done. So we might hear like maybe just the OP in the next episode, and then we'll have to wait an extra one before we actually hear the ED. Although they've been doing the thing where the ED plays at the end, even if it doesn't actually play like the video version. So you might hear the ED regardless. But I like where they're going with like the songs there. And I know I haven't been talking about the show itself, but like I said, like the positives really speak for itself these last couple episodes. Like it's hard to really like, you know, analyze anything other than just like, did you fucking watch the episode? It's like it really speaks for itself, man. I've got fucking nothing.
It's been a good show. It's been a very good show.
Yep. And we can just hope that it keeps it up. It's shown signs that it will keep it up. It's clearly the writer knows what he's doing. It's just, you know, we'll see.
I'm getting my hopes up for this one. I'm being optimistic for ReZero. I remember when, what was it, Your Lie in April was airing. I kept having that nagging feeling within me. Like, the first half of Your Lie in April, for me anyways, I loved it. I loved the drama that was taking place. I loved the pacing of the episodes. It was all great, but I still had that nagging feeling that I was just like, this is gonna go to shit. This is so definitely going to go to shit. And guess what? Yeah, I went to shit. So, but I just don't have that feeling within me for ReZero. So, on nothing but a gut instinct, I'm saying that ReZero is going to keep up this quality. I say it's going to stay at this like very great quality that it's at right now.
I mean, yeah, like I said, like I'm optimistic. I'm just cautiously optimistic, and it's not because of the show itself. It's just because of all the people who know about the source material saying like, oh, the third arc is where it gets like really serious, where it gets really dark. And whenever I hear it's always, any show where I always hear those things, like it always ends up being like too much, or it just ends up being like exaggerated. It's like it's a lot of those times when people always say like it gets better, you know?
Yeah.
Like even usually that's for shows where people don't like what they're watching and they're just like, "Oh, keep watching, it gets better." And then it doesn't. But so it's like kind of different, but at the same time like it's still that same thing where like I always get nervous when people come over and they're like, "If you think this is good, wait for this." And it's like,
Oh no.
now you're making me nervous because every time that's happened, it's like, I don't know, like the show will speak for itself. Like it'll be good or it'll suck. Like we'll see. Like
Yeah.
all signs point to it being more of like what we've gotten so far, which has been great. It's just like there's always the possibility. It's just so it's like that's why I'm cautiously optimistic. But like I'm like 98% sure that it's going to be good. It's just like that 2% that's like there's always that chance that it shits itself. And I feel like if anything, it's not going to shit itself writing wise. Like I feel like the writing quality is going to stay consistent throughout. I'm just worried about the tone because a lot of people are talking about how dark it gets. And that always makes me nervous because darkness is like very fine line to tread. Like you can do dark, you know, tones and themes and messages, but you always have to be very careful with how you portray it. Otherwise, it becomes like edgelord shit or like just like dumb. So like when things try too hard to be dark, it gets like not pretty. It's just like, I mean, this is it's all speculation, just based on like you know the mumblings of like the internet and you know people who know the source material stuff, but and we're really talking about nothing because we're all just saying at the end of the day that the show is going to speak for itself. It's just something like I guess maybe I'm trying to say like if you know the source material and you've been saying that, like I get that you're like excited, but could you please not? Like whenever people do stuff like that, it just makes people nervous. Like it's better if you just like let the thing play and then talk about it. Like it's not the same thing at all, so this is a shit comparison, but you know like when you're like in a show or something, or you're like maybe like, you know, in like I see it a lot when I watch Twitch streams of people doing like visual novels with like, you know, in-depth stories, and people in chat always do that thing where they're like, "Here it comes." And it's just like, why would you fucking say that? Like now people are just gonna like be mentally like, you know, like walling themselves off for something that's going to happen. Like why not just have it happen, hit with the full impact of maybe something I didn't see coming, and then after that you could be like, wasn't that great? And then the person be like, yeah, that was great. I'm sure glad someone didn't, you know, hint ahead of time that there was going to be something sad or like happy or something, because that would have kind of ruined it. Again, shit comparison. It's not really the same thing. It's just like even people who are like saying like, you know, stuff about how, you know, great this next arc of ReZero is going to be. You've had to have that show where someone tells you it gets better, or just wait, it gets amazing, you know, and then it didn't. So it's like it's always easy to feel like this is the exception. I need to let people know, but just it's just better if you don't really. Like I get like it's at the point where ReZero is already pretty popular as it is. It doesn't really need people going out of their way to tell people how amazing it gets. Like you can just talk about how amazing it's already being, you know? Like just do that and then, you know, draw people in that way. It's just like I feel like even subtly talking about things to come is like always just like a bad zone to be in regardless, you know, of like the show or what you're hinting at. Like just let things play out. Like I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Also your comments on Your Lie in April, without this turning into like a fucking Your Lie in April review. I agree that the first half was great, but I wouldn't say the last half shit the bed. Like it definitely, or that it went to shit, I think you said. It definitely had a lot of issues. It fucked some things up. It spent way too long on the flashbacks, of course. But at the same time, like it did a lot of things that I did appreciate. Like I can't really say what they are because of spoilers, but I appreciate that Your Lie in April did the things that it did that were like good, I guess I should say. Like the things that were like writing conceptually like solid. Like I appreciate those things despite the execution of it being kind of off in that second half. But yeah, that's a little off topic.
Yeah, it's a little. God, why do you make things go so off topic? God damn it!
I know. It's just like I can't stop rambling.
Yeah, like I would I understand like the entire thing of that entire concept of like, don't worry, it gets better, but there was I know there was a show that everyone said that about. I think it was yeah, it was Sword Online. It was Mother's Rosario.
Oh God,
Everyone
Mother's
like
Rosario. Yeah, that was exactly it.
everyone was like, "Don't worry, guys. Mother's Rosario arc is just fantastic," and it was like one of the worst arcs in like Sword Art Online.
It wasn't the worst. That was
I
ALO.
said, I said one. I said one of the worst. Like GGO was a lot better. I actually kind of enjoyed the GGO arc. Really thinking back
GGO
on
gets
it.
too much shit. Like, it definitely had its
Yeah,
issues, but at least it had, like, a villain that was intimidating, even if his plan was fucking convoluted and stupid. Like, at least he
yeah,
was intimidating, as opposed to fucking Kayaba or whatever from the first fucking arc, who, like, forgot why he did everything.
yeah, yeah. And the little interactions between what was it, Shino, Shiho, and Kirito. Those were
Yeah, Shino
actually
and
kind of
Kirito.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were like still fun to watch. Really.
That was probably the best part, because, like, I get why it was hard not to, why it was easy to see it as, like, a romantic thing because of everything that happened before, but I really didn't get the
Yeah.
impression of, like, romance between them and their interactions, which I don't think the show was going for at all. Like, it was just kind of, like, bonding between, these two people that have, like, sort of similar circumstances. The way they made their circumstances link together was stupider, or more stupid than other stuff they did with the characters. Like
Yeah.
the way they linked Kirito's, like, stuff that he did with her was like that was dumb. But like, yeah, I appreciate the interactions and the fact that it wasn't like strictly romantic, even if Shinon did seem to like showing her ass off to him a little too much.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just why they just really want to show off her ass a lot of the time.
You want to show off her ass in general, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's Sword Online. That's
Yeah,
not a show we're
I'm
supposed to
glad
talk
we were
about.
done discussing our Sword Art Online podcast. Man, that was great.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
so I think that'll is that all about ReZero we wanted to cover?
yeah, that's everything, yeah.
Yeah, everything and more.
Yeah.
So that means we'll move on to our last show, which is Bungo Stray Dogs. Two very different episodes. What do you think the last two episodes of Bungo Stray Dogs, Lewis?
Um like while I greatly enjoyed episode 11, I feel the one with the what's his face? The other guy, the
Yeah,
other guy that
I know what you're talking about.
while I greatly enjoyed that episode, it felt so out of place. Like it really, really, really needed to be in the middle of the show while it was like developing all the side character stuff. It was a great episode. Like I really enjoyed it. It went by so quickly, but it was just so out of place. Like the last episode where they had that like huge fight with Atagawa and like the were tiger coming out with Asashi and with everything with Kaneko girl he rescued, like
Kyoka.
with all those yeah, with all those developments happening, and with everything with Dazai, like if I kind of like laughed at both like at the show and with the show, like at the very end of that episode where it was just like, yeah, no, I'm just gonna wait. Where Dazai was just like chilling in his apartment and he was just like, I'm just gonna wait until I tell him when I get back. Like it was so out of place, but like I really enjoyed that episode. And that the episode, yeah, like it was a good, um, no, not a conversation of ideals. Atagawa was a nice character because they're doing a good job of, um, I suppose humanizing him is probably the best word to say it. Like a lot of shows go about the business of purely villainizing their villains. Like they're not going to like say he's actually this. He's actually kind of a good guy here. He's got like a heart. He's got a reason to why he's so bad, and he's really a good guy. And they did a okay job of it. Like it's clearly that's not what their entire intention was, but they did like a nice job of showing that like he's not all that bad. Like with everything with his inferiority complex with Asashi, or rather, trying to gain Dasai's affection with trying to have that. Oh, I'm better than him. And that's what's kind of like leading him on. Uh, uh, Other than that, everything. It was purely like a clashing of just. I don't know. It was a clash, and it was very. That entire fight was obviously just there for Ashigawa. He was throwing everything at him, abilities which we haven't seen before, and Asushi was just shrugging it off, and he was just like, "Wow, this is just a pickle." And it was a very interesting fight. It was a cool fight to watch, but it was still like kind of like, huh, sort of thing. What else? And that, yeah, episode 11 felt immensely out of place. But it was still a great episode, and I loved it. And yeah, both episodes are really, really good.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny that you mentioned episode 11 feeling like out of place, like it should have been in the middle. Because after episode 10, with like all the fighting and then the hinting of like the big things to come with fucking F. Scott Fitzgerald villain,
Yeah.
I looked up how many episodes the show is gonna be, because I thought it was gonna be 12 episodes, and that seemed kind of short to cover like the last bit of stuff, and
Yeah.
it is gonna be 12 episodes, but it's split core. So
Oh.
technically we are in the middle of the show right now.
Right.
So it's funny that you mentioned that. It still does feel out of place because of the things that just happened before it, but it's still technically the middle of the show, so it was kind of funny that you said that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was his name? Is it Miyazawa Kenji? Why is that name in my head? Is
Yeah.
that his name?
Yeah, Kenji. Yeah, Kenji's his name. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that episode was great. That was a lot of humor. That was like classic silly fucking episode from the team. Names are hard to remember, man. But it was 10 that was really cool. Like something that I think it's just Bones in general. But something that I've noticed is like even if like their art isn't on like the same kind of like crazy tier as something like Ufotable does, like they're always consistent. Like the animation and art like almost never dips in a Bone show. Like it's always like from beginning to end, it's like in a consistent quality that it establishes at the start. And it's like this fight, like there was a lot of stuff going on. Like the art wasn't like, as like I mentioned, it's kind of something is like Ufotable, where like everyone's always like constantly on model and highly detailed the entire time. But like as far as like the level of detail in the fight and all the stuff they did and like everything that was happening, like it never really dipped at all. Like it was always like consistently looked good. And it's not like they like blew their budget either or anything, because like the show still looks good. So like, I mean, maybe it'll happen later on, but with it being split core, I imagine that'd be kind of hard because they're already like, having extra time to work on the next bit. So maybe they needed the split core to like keep the quality consistent, but like that's always the thing I've noticed with Bone Show, and something I always appreciate is like, even if they're not on the same like, it's weird that I say the same level of like art quality as Ufotable, because honestly I think a lot of Bone shows are prettier than like the Fate shows that they've done. Like I still love all the castle shots in Snow White with the red hair. Like any of the castle shots with like the garden like flowery scenery in it is like 10 out of 10 wallpaper material. Like it's fucking incredible. It's and they've always paid so much attention to their backgrounds. It's great. It's a little less so in Bungo Stray Dogs, although the town still looks really good. Like with all the fucking wires going all over the place, it's almost like a fucking old school San Francisco. It's but the fight was cool. I especially appreciated the cinematography of certain shots. Like I remember there was a shot where Kyuga was like out of it. She was unconscious, like up against some of the whatever they're called, containers, and Atsushi's getting knocked back by his attack. He's like, I think he got like caught by the hand and like pushed back into the crates or something, and the shot is just like kind of an up close almost, and like the bottom rightish corner of like Kyoka leaning up against the containers like unconscious, and then behind her is where Atsushi gets pushed into the containers and like, you know, knocked the fuck out, and Kyoka's still just kind of sitting there unconscious. And it's like that kind of shot is like so cool because it's like it establishes, you know, that she's still there, she still exists, and the fact
Yeah.
that they're like fighting around her and like all the shit going down while she's unconscious is like it does a very good job of like establishing like the setting of like what's happening. Like you have the sense of like you always know what's going on. It's like, and something I always like wonder about is like there's always this entry of like people like kind of figuring out like kind of like, how do I put this? It's like hard for people to tell whether like directing or cinematography is good if they've never like considered looking at something like that before. And one of the easiest ways to like figure out at least if cinematography and directing is bad is if you're ever confused about what's going on at any point. If you're ever wondering like what you're looking at or what's happening in a scene, that's bad. You should never be confused unless it's deliberate. Sometimes there's like deliberate decisions where you're supposed to be confused about something. But if it doesn't seem like it's intentional and you're confused about what's going on, that means the directing or the cinematography is not up to snuff. And in this fight, you always know what's going on. Like, there's always this, like, you know, sense of, like, where everyone is and how this fight is going on. And the fact that, like, they're avoiding hitting Kyoka for the most part. It's, like, it's something, like, that's, like, really minor at the same time. But it's something that, like, I really appreciate having. Like, the attention to detail like that. Which is, honestly, something we've already covered a lot with my team that I like, my director writer combo team.
You know them.
Yeah, I've names are eluding me right now. I know Anakito's the writer, and then like immediately I've already forgotten the director's name. You'd think I'd remember like my favorite writer director combo, but that's just how bad I am with names. Is like I forget them on a dime. Like that's just how bad I am.
I swear you would never forget these two though. Like.
No, I'll forget names on a dime. Like honestly, like if there wasn't like an easy way to remember my own damn birthday, like I would have forgotten that already too. Like dates and names, I cannot do dates and names. Like I just cannot forget them. It's why history was my worst subject. Because you have to remember information as specific as names and dates, I will forget them. Like, it's like, whenever information is that specific, it's always hard for me to remember. I had to fucking look up F. Scott Fitzgerald's name before we recorded this so I wouldn't forget it. So, that's how bad I am. So, yeah, that's fucking stuff I liked about the episodes.
Yeah, it was good stuff. It was, yeah, like, directing Rising Bungo Stray Dogs is probably one of the most, it's kind of like at times it's almost like an unseen appreciated thing. Like it's something that like you look back on while rewatching an episode and be like, oh yeah, that was actually really nicely done. But in the moment, it kind of goes over your head, and it's great because like that scene probably with any other director probably wouldn't have been that enticing. Because I noticed with a lot of the shots, they were focused. This was purely to aid the characters, but they focused a lot on the actual faces of Atsugawa and Atsushi. That purely just to show, you know, their determination and what they're feeling at the time, really, and that just aided the overall fight completely. Because like knowing what a character feels like and what they're feeling during a battle is pretty important, because you know it's nice to see limbs going all over the place and like bullets flying, but knowing the current state and morale of like a character true facial features is great. It's great during the fight because it gets you enticed, and those shots really helped make it a lot more engaging to watch, really. Other than that, it was great. Directing is just great during the show. It's a consistent great as well, which is really nice.
Yeah. Director's name is Igarashi. I just looked it up so I
Igarashi.
wouldn't feel stupid.
Nice.
But yeah, Igarashi's like, I mean, we've already mentioned him multiple times, but Igarashi's a great character director. Like, he's very good at like establishing character personalities. He does a bit more than just character stuff in like Star Driver, which is why I love it so fucking much. But I also mentioned it before, but it honestly does. It's like fucking night and day with Captain Earth. I don't know what the fuck happened with Captain Earth, but it really does feel like he just didn't give a shit. Like maybe at first he did, like the first couple episodes, but after a while it just felt like he stopped giving a shit, except for like a couple scenes here and there. It almost felt like he wasn't directing. Like maybe he had like a sub director or something doing most of the work, and he just occasionally popped in to like chime in on some stuff. But
Yeah.
it just like like Captain Earth was such a slip up. I feel so bad that it was your first Igarashi show. Like it's just been such a bad taste in your mouth.
It was a bad introduction.
Yeah, it's like honestly, like it's so good. This just really makes me want to rewatch Star Driver. But honestly, I'll take almost any reason to rewatch Star Driver. I love that show so fucking much.
Really?
But yeah, I think we covered pretty much most of what we wanted about Bungo Stray Dogs. It's interesting that it's going to be split core, so I guess we'll probably cover the second half when that airs, and we'll see what they do with that. I guess that's why they tried to cover the last of the side characters right now, because they can get out of the way for the second core. So that seems like it make most sense. But yeah, I think that'll do it. So we went a little over, but that was to be expected with covering double episodes for everything. Not as over as I was expecting, actually.
Yeah, we did a good job.
We went a little too long on ReZero and off-topic shit, so that would have helped if we hadn't done that. But well. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so that's the stuff for this week. So anything you wanted to fucking say to wrap this up, Lewis?
I was sick last week. Very sick. I couldn't speak. Yeah. What else? Yeah. No. Follow my Twitter.
Follow Lewis's Twitter. It's in the description somewhere.
Yeah.
But that'll do it. So that's all for this week, and we'll see you guys next week, unless Lewis gets sick again, or I get sick again, or something. So unless something happens, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, hopefully. Bye.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.